you start with an idea, and then you have a gap for
Yeah,
implementation. Like, yeah, we need 5 weeks to get something up and running, and then we start, right? No,
yeah,
we really need to get it much simpler and start. Okay, what is
yeah,
it you need? Okay, let's shape it, and I think event modeling is great. You can shape
yeah.
it in a way, you can describe the behavior in a way that everybody in the room understands.
Right. And it's
And
in my opinion even more predictable than afterwards because you did the right job to just slice everything in a right way so that clients have an easier time to just estimate, okay, what does this mean for us as a company and also budget wise. And the interesting part was that one of our engineers was like, yeah, that's all nice with the event modeling stuff and event sourcing as a basis for this whole workshop. But isn't it just about front end stuff for clients because they don't care about what's in the back end, right? And I get his point to a certain degree because it's true. If things go fast and clients are not so tech savvy, I get that. But that's why I'm hoping so much to just make it way easier to build something from the ground up that makes sense and is useful long term. And maybe just to concentrate on the front end stuff in the workshop itself at the end. But I feel like both is important, but I get his point to a certain degree.
yeah, if I can share my
Yeah,
unrestricted opinion on that,
yeah,
systems and that's gonna we've had some discussions about what the impacts of AI will be on
yeah,
how will it impact us, right? And but that's a longer story that we can go into later. There should be more to a system than just UI. I think it's a little bit the just to make a point, let me call it the 80s style of looking at systems, or the
yeah,
2000s style, right? We have a UI is a nice sauce for on top of a database, right? But
yeah,
systems are not like that anymore. There's much more importance than just what you can see on the front end, the back end, let's say the behavior of the system and what it actually does
yeah,
with the interaction of the user is going to be much more important in the time to come. So yes, users are used to UIs, and it is a great way to start a conversation about the behavior of a system. That's why I'm really I was very skeptical about event modeling for a very long time because I didn't really understand the difference between event storming and event modeling. And event modeling had a few very specific awkward rules that
mm,
event storming didn't have, and I thought they were just awkward and annoying until I thought, okay, let me just comply to these rules for once and see what happens.
How would you the define not really define, but compare those two in your words then event storming and event modeling?
So for me, event storming was well, you start with events,
Mm,
and that's where the process ends, right? And then you can do commands if you want to. You can identify. So I've used event storming very successfully to discover the integration complexity in a system. So
yeah,
okay, we to understand this flow, and this was about the mortgage applications in the U.S., right? A very complicated flow of lots of different systems involved. Um, so what we did is we had the events to describe what happened in different phases, and it's really useful to talk in terms of events and not to describe it as random instructions. And then we started to identify, okay, where are the external systems? Just post stickies. Okay, great.
yeah,
How do we interact with these external systems? Are they consumers of information? If yes, what information? Or are they going to tell us something to do and provide us with instructions, commands, and queries, right? But the process is much more, what is it that you want to prove, right? You
yeah.
want to prove something, you want to discover something. And that was, for that was really useful. I just did not see how that could, with any form of generate button, create anything remotely useful in code.
Yeah.
And I think to a lot of people, event modeling is just the same thing, right? It's just called different. If you ask people, have you done event modeling? Yeah, we've done event storming sessions. Like, no, that's not
It's not
not
the
the same
same.
thing. Superficially, it's the same. It uses the same stickies. It
It's
uses the same colors for
same
the same
stickers.
things, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same. But there's a few rules, and even in event storming, you're not supposed to connect a command directly to a query, but you can if it helps you discover your problem. Event modeling is a bit more strict. No, you don't. The way it goes, and the way I was taught, is you're not even allowed to have splits, right? You cannot do or it's just one flow. That's it. You go from command to event to information to UI to command to event, maybe to an automation. But there's no, in this case, it's going to be this way, and in that case, no. If it's two different cases, two different diagrams. And I thought that was a little bit exaggerated until I started to do it. Then I noticed that, hey, this is describing a system using an abstraction level that both developers can live with, because it is detailed enough for the developer to feel involved, and they can talk about the details that are always important to the developers, because in the end they have to build it, and they will have to build an if somewhere. And if only one branch of the if is described and the other one is not, then what do we do, right? We have a problem. But also the non-technical people in the room, they have to cross this border of well, there's a little bit of history usually between the non-developers and the developers, right? We don't understand them, and they just talk gibberish, and every session we do with them, we lose track of what's happening anyway. But if you just stick to the names that are used in event modeling, don't use the word saga, use the word automation, right? That very simple things. But then you can get to those details, and then suddenly the non-developers understand, hey, wait, there's an important distinction in this case between this situation and that situation. Okay, let's model them both. Let's see how they differ. And I found it to be a really useful way to describe a system in all the detail, I would say. Yeah, there's always something you can't describe, but to a level of detail where at least you can tell a developer, that's what I want. So go wherever you go to build it, and go build it, right? And there's very little interpretation possible about what should happen in a certain case, because event modeling does allow you to describe all that.
Exactly.
The model looks wrong until you've described all of it. Yeah.
And I feel like also getting to the point in the beginning with the front end stuff and UI elements, that it's way easier to describe them to clients or to C-level managers and so on, where the use is if you see something before your eyes, right? And I think we should do a way better job to just describe also stuff that happens a bit in the back and that is not seen visually all the time, but it's possible because the value in itself is something we can communicate. But it's a bit harder because it has one or two levels between it. What I wanted to ask you actually also the last time, but I forgot this, is and this ties to the things that you said right now. Why do you think if you have a better technology, let's say technology, not just patterns, but in general, the technologies or strategies and so on, if you have a better technology, why is this something sometimes that does not prevail actually, or has arrives at a critical mass? Because you can assume that, for example, also tech-savvy people and so on, we always strive to do something modern, something new. We look at things where is something where I can improve on, and you have better technologies then. But sometimes they don't get this critical mass and does not prevail. Why do you think is that?
I think it's human psychology, safety. It's almost when you travel home, right? Imagine you work in an office. I mean, there could be people here that can't imagine working in an office, but you travel to an office. What road do you take to go to the office? Well, it's the one you always take. Yeah. And if you go by public transport, you probably always take the same train to the same station, and then from there take the same whatever tram, bus, whatever it is you take the same one because you know that works.
Yeah.
The problem is you also know that every now and then that train is canceled or it's full, or at certain times, there's no place to sit in the bus or whatever. So there's problems on that way.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that you could change your route. You could say, I take the train to another station, then take another bus, maybe. I mean, definitely in public transport, it's sometimes difficult in some areas to find a different connection, but in the car, it's the same thing, right? You will travel. Well, you take it, but you don't know how traffic is in the other road.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could be worse. And then where am I? Then I'm stupid, right? Because I made a change and it made it worse. So I have this feeling that we prefer, and I actually say this quite often, we prefer to hit problems that we know than to hit the unknown.
The public transport example is such a good one, actually, because while you were talking, I was like, in the beginning, before I have a route already where my habits are built, I always try to be efficient and look at, okay, which connection should I take so that I can get from A to B as fast as I can, or properly, right? The moment I did that, the habits are forming, and then I don't deviate from that, right? So it's so important in the beginning to already have a stable basis or the right decisions sometimes, which is again why event modeling now event-driven architectures also as a pattern makes sense from the beginning, because then you choose the right route from the beginning, and you don't need to let's say take a different tram out of the blue because something was canceled or something blocks your way, right?
Exactly. And there's a few other psychological concepts that I was once pointed at that also play a very important role in how we make decisions. And one of them is called the near completion effect, or near completion fallacy. No, it was a sunk cost fallacy, and the near completion, I think it was called effect. But this belief that we continuously have, and the example given was your car repairs, right? Let's imagine you own a car, and it's a nice old car. You love it. You've been using it. You've become acquainted to it. You know its quirks. You know it has problems, but you know how to work around them.
Yeah.
So you'll use that car to drive on the problematic route to your office. Now the car breaks down. So you bring it to a repair shop and they say, hey, it will be 500 euros to repair it. I mean, it's a lot of money, but I need the car to travel to work. So I will pay the 500 euros. I mean, buying a new car is going to cost you what? 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, whatever, right? It's orders of magnitude higher. So the 500 is peanuts. It's an easy decision. So you'll do that because then my car is fixed again. And this is near completion effect. You just need to pay the 500 euros and then I'm in a good spot again. So I'm not going to change my car, my good old diesel or leaded fuel car, because the other ones are better, but I don't need all that, right? I don't need cruise control, and I don't need what is it, radio. I just have my cassette player and I'm fine, right? So this near completion effect, we have this fundamental belief that if we just fix this one thing, it'll be fine again. And the other one is that's paired with it very often is the sunk cost. That is more looking behind. I've already invested so much in this car that the 500 euros is right. It's peanuts compared, because I've already invested like 40K in this car. I'm not going to throw that away to buy another car of 40K, right? Which, if you think about it, is just insanity. Right? I think it's literally the definition of insanity.
But it reduces risk, right? Because if you do something big, you're there in the center with your own name, and I feel like it's hard for so many people to be on that forefront and to just take the risk, right? So I get that totally.
You decided we need a new car, and now that car is broken. And now we have to buy a new car and 500
or
euros
it has quirks. It has quirks that you couldn't imagine beforehand because you didn't expect it. And now everyone is frustrated, or your partner is frustrated with that because this worked always. And even though it has Bluetooth now or whatever, it doesn't work for maybe bystanders or other people, right?
Yeah.
So the expectation should be set correctly, and that's also a very hard one, especially for bigger companies with their system in place and organization. And this what we talked in the beginning also, the communicating well what is behind the scene and what value it brings long term, because in the end I will buy a new car if I have all those repairs so frequently and it's getting so expensive. Then I will decide on, maybe even earlier than that, because I get a second child, I need more space and stuff like this. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And I think that's a good analogy. You need an external disruption. So
yeah,
you're getting a child, well, trust me, is
yeah,
a
yeah,
disruption.
I get
But
that.
is but you need some form of disruption to say now it's worth it.
Yeah,
And actually, that's what happened with me. I got not one but two kids at the same
yeah,
time. That will
same
definitely
here.
disrupt everything. And then
Yeah,
you need a different car. I mean, I had a really nice car. It had a few over 100,000 kilometers. I could
yeah,
still use it. Actually, I sold it to my brother, who drove it up to 400,000 kilometers, I think. So
amazing.
it had good purpose, but the car was great, and I wasn't actually ready to get rid of it.
Yeah,
But I physically just could not fit my family. You you could put people upside down, maybe it would fit, but you're not
yeah,
allowed to. So it just
it
didn't.
was the
And
same for
then
us.
it was the disruption, right? And that's what you need as well. And I think disruptions are coming, but any organization to make such a decision needs, there has to be some external force to say, this doesn't fit anymore. You have to do something else. And
Yeah.
then people are willing to make a daunting change.
Do you feel like that? Because my hopes are that even though they're not super high, but I wish for every company to for them to change or transform without being disrupted first, or the risk of disruption, because this is a very reactive way of dealing with things, and it's not a very active way, because it's you just look what's happening, then the stress builds up, then the worries are coming. But it shouldn't be that way. But it's oftentimes, or almost all the times, the same thing. Something externally needs to happen, and then everyone gets moving. I don't feel like this will change ever for bigger corporations. But and I feel like it's not the people itself, because people in corporations also know that they should transform, or they can pinpoint what issues there are. But having this system around you with a brand, with regulatory issues and stuff like this, it's getting harder and harder to just move around and have this autonomy of deciding something big like that, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I'm also so keen and amazed by event sourcing and event-driven architectures, because it's way more safe. Also, you have all the data in your hand. It's auditable, right? So it's amazing to me how many different aspects it targets for so many clients. One colleague of mine was, because I told him I interview you and we have a discussion, and he told me to ask you, do you feel like event-driven architectures don't have a place in certain environments or situations? Let's exclude maybe the smallest of apps that are throwaway stuff, right? So let's exclude those. But do you have some use cases where you feel like that's not the right thing to do?
I used to. I used to
Wow.
have a few examples where I said, for this kind of systems, and I'm not mentioning them on purpose, but
Yeah.
event sourcing or real event-driven systems, right, where
Yeah.
events are really at the core, is not useful. And I had a few. And actually, one of them, we have a German customer who I didn't know what they were building with our software, right? And
Yeah.
they told me what they were building, and we're like, wait a minute, that was one of my use cases where I felt like, hey, that's not where you want to use event sourcing. And they told me, oh, this is the place where you want to do event sourcing, because you may not be aware, but in this process, this and this auditability is really important, and the change is more important than the result. And that's why I realized I don't have any idea about what happens in organizations, right? Well, everything we see is very superficial. We see the tweet of what an organization does, but what organizations do are libraries. But we see the tweets. There's so much going on inside that even in the use cases where you feel like, oh, but this is just a process flow, and you just go through the flow, and if you made it to the end, it's good. Nobody cares about how you went through the process. Well, guess what? There's always somebody who cares.
Yeah.
And so there's only one situation where I feel that you should not use event sourcing, and that's when you can have used an Excel sheet. But those are the simple cases you excluded from the right. But other than that, I feel like we have grown so accustomed to just not having that important information that we started kind of disqualifying it in our minds, right?
Yeah,
it's not important because we haven't had it for the last 2 centuries. So why should I start caring about it today? Right. It's that feeling. Yeah.
It's one thing that I really appreciate with you, but also Axonic in general, is you're educating a lot, right? And this makes sense because this field is getting bigger and bigger, and that's a good thing. And I feel like, again, it's the future for software development and software as it should be built for clients that we have that are not throwaway applications where people hang on to it, where it's auditable, where you have data also in the future to use and usefully use. So I see all those things. So you're educating a lot. But on the other side, your business is this infrastructure heavy, let's say, because you build stuff around so that you can, it's easier for clients to use so something like event-driven architectures, like server, like console, and so on. Could you maybe, because this is also something I wanted to ask you, just a brief rundown what you guys have as products and what you feel like is missing still from this infrastructure perspective that you should build in the future?
So what we have is essentially a framework which is literally the framework for applications and how to build them to deal with events and commands and queries in a way where the technicalities are pushed into one corner and the business logic is given much more main stage. Right? We feel that that is important. If you look at traditional code, technicalities and business logic are mixed, and it's really beautiful but really not understandable. If you do a code review, you wonder, why did I do this, and you have to dive into details to find out why it happens. There's a big disconnect with just what the business says and what the code says, right? So that's very important. And of course the technicalities are not unimportant, but they're important in different discussions than the business logic. So that's what the framework roughly does. And in the framework, we provide a lot of plumbing, if you will, or utilities that you will need to be able to handle events reliably, preferably in order, exactly once where possible, or at least once, or at most once where exactly once is not possible. But to parallelize it, there's a lot of details. Again, the tweet versus the library. If you open up the little details, there's a lot to it to make it to work in high scale environments. And that's actually the part that lives, that is now 16 years old, right? So the framework has been around for about 16 years. In the last 7 years, we've been building an event store and messaging platform because we felt that was missing in our industry. So can't you use any relational database as an event store? Yes, you can, up to a certain point. And once that point is there, you're in trouble because performance will degrade. You'll have all this data that slows down everything, and what to do with it. Do you throw it away after that or not? Well, it's value, right? So you don't want to throw it away, but you can't keep it because it slows you down. And this is what we've solved in the event store that we have built. It's designed to store data in a different way than relational databases are designed to do. Yet I do have to say that for anyone watching this, if not an event store, a properly built event store, the relational database is by far the best second option. Anything else will come way, way, way further down after that, because they've all any database, any design chooses certain functionality and sacrifices on something else. And relational databases are really good with consistency, and that is really important for event stores. But an event store is only that, right? It stores events, and it allows you to properly stream events as well to other consumers. They can use that event store to retrieve their events. But we also have commands and queries, and you want to treat them differently. And what we've done with Axon Server, and that is the combination of basically that's the messaging platform that also acts as the event store. It takes into account how you want to deal with queries and commands. So if you send multiple commands that target the same, let's say, domain concept, or if you have a system with a concept of an order, and you send 3 commands to add an item to the same order, you preferably want those 3 commands to be routed to the same destination. So you have to load the order once and then do something on it 3 times, right? It's more efficient. So we have that kind of efficiency in that system. And it's zero configuration, which means you install it, you connect your applications, and then they can just communicate, right? There's no wiring that you need to do to make sure that the right applications receive the right types of messages. That is all automatic. So that's the other product. But then you have an observability challenge, right? Once you've all these components that are starting to publish events and send commands to each other, you might have some challenges where the component publishing events does so faster than the consuming component can consume them, or you send so many commands that the components handling those commands cannot keep up. So you want to track those and monitor those, and there we have Axon Console, which is a service basically to monitor the flow. It has a lot of Axon knowledge of how your applications are built up, what kind of components you have, so it can give you hints and advice on, hey, you should think about scaling this one because there's a backlog of events that it's not processing. So if you parallelize it more, you can scale further down, that kind of information. So that's what we have roughly. There's one module almost forgot, is the right to be forgotten. No, it's our data protection module. Basically, event sourcing has one challenge, that a good event store is append only. Now there are edit operations in our platform, so there are ways to change the data, but they are not meant as to be compared with a SQL update. They're meant to remove data that shouldn't have been there in the first place, or in hindsight you should not have had, or maybe not structured in that way. And GDPR is one such example, right? On day 1, it's perfectly fine storing somebody's personal information, and on day X, that person says,
it's totally
hey,
different,
and you need to get rid of it. Or it's financial data, so you have to take it for that long. It's marketing data, it has to live shorter, whatever. So we have a data protection module that encrypts, that does field level encryption, so you can mark the personal information as personal information. And it gets encrypted with a key that is basically every individual, or every category of information for every individual will have a different key. And if you want to throw away the information, logically throw away, you throw away the key. And therefore the system cannot access that information anymore. And that makes it, at least you've complied to
GDPR and stuff, right?
GDPR in that case.
By the way, on that front, I heard one argument that that's the way to go, right? Which is the most elegant way to throw this key away and to encrypt stuff. One argument was, but I'm not sure how you would answer this, if the encryption side is getting stronger, how to decrypt, let's say in a few years with, I don't know, quantum computing or other things. Then it wouldn't be safe. It could be hacked to a certain degree. Do you have a personal opinion on this, about this argument?
Yeah, I've heard different stories about it. Basically, they say quantum computing will cut the time needed to crack a piece of data, or to crack the encryption in half. others will say, well, that makes AES 512 as strong as 256, which is already pretty strong. So don't worry about it, right? I've heard of mathematical approaches where they say, well, what if you could do 1 million calculations per second? Apparently, there's this minimal unit of time that you cannot go any smaller. And if in that time you could do 1 million calculations, then you would still need 1 million supercomputers to make it happen, right? That kind of, I don't know. It's all pretty much abracadabra to me. It's looking into a glass ball, what will happen. So what we have done is we've said, okay, what we want is a relatively cheap way to fulfill somebody's demand of forget me, where at least your current system will not accidentally process that information anymore. Because that is, in many systems that are GDPR compliant, is a big problem because there's backups.
Right.
And those backups will not have your data removed from them. So what they must have is in the restore operation of a backup, there must be a procedure to remove the removed information from that backup before you restore it. That means you need to remember all of the people that wanted to be forgotten. See where the problem is?
Yeah.
So how do we deal with, do we have a choice?
Yeah.
Basically what I'm saying. So what we say is, okay, delete the key, right? You don't have the key. That means you're not supposed to have the information encrypted with that key. Simple.
Yeah.
Whoever it was, if it was John Doe, Jane Doe, John Meyer, whatever, right? It doesn't matter anymore. We don't have the key. We're not supposed to have the data. So when we restore information and we see that that information was encrypted with a key we don't have, we can physically remove it.
Yeah.
Or with what we call event store transformation, you can go through your event store and all the information from which the key was removed physically, for however physical exists in
and migrate those.
But just remove it, right? Remove it from the data, even the encrypted side. In that case, the information that lives for longer in an encrypted form could be an order of magnitude of months, maybe years. Well, in a year from now, we might have a few quantum computers, but I'm pretty sure our laptops won't be quantum computers in a year's time. Yeah. So I think we'll be safe on that side.
The what ifs are sometimes really interesting, but you shouldn't be fearful too much about what could happen, because I think it leads to a certain place where you can see on the forefront how things could play out. So you have time to work around it, and you guys worked around so many issues already that maybe customers would have faced. So there are solutions to almost probably every problem that you might face changing this system to architecture-driven one.
I have a nice analogy about fear. I don't know. Do you have a motorcycle license? By any chance, do you ride?
Which license? Say it again.
Motorcycle.
No, I don't have one.
Okay. So I have one, and the interesting thing is during motorcycle lessons, it's well, you have to make sure you stay upright, right? Yeah. And when driving fast, it's easy because it will just be stable. But when you're slow, so one of the exercises you have to do is a slalom. So they put these little cones on the streets, and you have to slalom in between them. When you're a newbie, what you do is you fear those cones, right? Because you want to go across them. So what you do is you focus on the danger. You focus on the cone.
Yeah.
The fun thing about motorcycles, and that's what you learn with that exercise, is it goes where you look. So if you look at the thing you want to avoid, you'll hit it.
But I think it's similar to cars, right? Because I feel like it was also don't look at how far you're away from the border or the side where you could run into. Just look directly in front of you where you want to go, right? So, yes. But with motorcycles, it's maybe more extreme because you have this flexibility also. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's sometimes by focusing too much on what we fear, it will happen because of our focus on that fear.
Do you have on the question that I have something, maybe that's actually the last question, something missing from your infrastructure stack, patterns that you provide, ideas that you have, something that you want to build on in the future?
There's definitely something, and that's what we are well working on, as in
Yeah,
cooperating on, and it's actually what we started our discussion with.
yeah,
It's I am convinced we have a beautiful framework. I mean, it's the second best
we like it.
implementation that we could imagine, because Axon
Yeah.
5 will be so much better. But the thing is, um, unless you know what you want to build, the framework can be as beautiful as it can be, but you still have a problem. What do we need to build? So I think what is missing in the whole thing, we help people building it, we help people running it at scale. I mean, we have customers with thousands of app instances connected to Axon server nodes across the world, and it scales. But building the right thing, that's what we're missing. So
Yeah.
where do we start? So at the beginning of things, and that's where we're looking at this connection with event modeling. I do feel event modeling is probably one of the better ways to describe system behavior, because you can be awkwardly specific, but still understood by anyone involved with this particular business process. But how to get from that model to that code. And I think there are some beautiful tools, and we've decided in our company to not focus on building any of that, because I think there's people that do a much better job that are currently working on it. We've mentioned Martin Doger. There's oh no, now his name escaped me again.
Oh no, who do you mean specifically?
From Germany, was it? There's a few people working on modeling
Yeah.
tools that are great for event modeling, and that allow you to generate code as well.
Yeah.
And we prefer to partner with those and to work with
Yeah.
them to make sure that the structure of applications, the structure of the code that they build, is something that we would recommend, and we would say, hey, this is a really solid foundation to then
Yeah.
move on and do more configuration and tuning to get from an MVP, hopefully
Yeah.
not a prototype, but an MVP in production. And when it's successful, you want to be able to build on that MVP and move on, and not have to start over again, right?
Yeah. Right.
And that's the part I feel we're missing, but it's something we hope the community picks up, and we hope to build links with that community and work with them.
Yeah, and share the knowledge from different angles and perspectives, things that we do, things that you do, and other partners, and so on. So, hey, thank you very much. This was longer than expected, by the way, because I told you it's 20 minutes, and now we're, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes over that. So thank you very much for taking time, and see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.